Kalos was approaching a red light in his Toyota Corolla. When the light turned green, he began accelerating, but the driver of a Kia Telluride decided to make an unprotected left turn in front of him. Kalos couldn't avoid a collision even though he applied the brakes. The Kia driver then took off, leaving him confused. His Corolla, which was decorated for Halloween, was totaled, and he and his passenger were both injured. The Kia driver was later caught and arrested for DUI and hit and run. Kalos is still waiting to get a settlement for his totaled car. Unfortunately, they weren't the only one to have a drunk driver turn in front of them and total their car. Carter experienced something similar when exiting a highway in Eugene, Oregon. Carter's Toyota Highlander was totaled, as was the drunk driver's car. Miraculously, nobody was seriously injured. This submitter needed to enter a parking lot but stopped to yield to pedestrians. A driver leaving the parking lot didn't see the pedestrians and thought our submitter was stopping for them. As one of the pedestrians began to cross in front of the other vehicle, the driver started exiting the parking lot. Fortunately, they figured out what was going on before any injury could occur. The other pedestrians decided to walk behind the SUV instead. Paul watched a dump truck driver get instant justice after running a red light right behind an Indiana state trooper. Paul says the dump truck driver didn't appear to brake until well after they'd already blown through the red light. He thinks the driver may have been on the phone or fallen asleep. Fortunately, Paul had stopped after hearing another driver honk, which kept him out of harm's way. Malachi was waiting at a traffic light when the driver of an oncoming minivan left their lane and hit his Nissan Frontier head-on. The minivan driver was unlicensed, uninsured, and claimed he'd fallen asleep at the wheel. Malachi was injured and had $7,000 in medical bills. Supposedly, the minivan driver had just canceled his insurance the day before so he could switch it over to Florida insurance. Malachi's insurance provider has put a lien on their new vehicle and their new house until they pay up. Malachi's pickup truck was totaled, but the insurance payout paid it off and allowed him to replace it with a Dodge Ram 1500. Davin had just picked up his fiancée for lunch. As he was driving, he noticed a line of cars that had stopped, so he let his foot off the accelerator, not knowing what was going on. His instincts paid off, and so did his fresh steering alignment. He came within inches of hitting the Chevy Impala. Thankfully, no collision occurred. Jose had parked his F-150 on the street. While his dashcam continued recording, a city bus driver ran their red light, pushing a Chrysler into a Dodge pickup. At first, the bus driver claimed they'd had a green light. Jose gave copies of his video to the victims, both of which were attorneys, by the way, and to the police. Finn was headed to work in his Opel Astra when he lost control while driving on an icy road. Fortunately, his father was able to pull his car out of the ditch with a wheel loader and nothing was damaged but Finn's ego. Sammy was headed home when they had to slam on the brakes to avoid rear-ending a transit van. Not only did the van driver merge across a solid line, they also turned from the wrong lane and failed to yield to oncoming traffic. Great job, van driver. Our next submitter is a firefighter. He was off duty and driving his own pickup truck one day when he watched a garbage truck driver try to beat a yellow light. The driver went into the turn with way too much speed and rolled the garbage truck onto its side. Along with other bystanders, our submitter helped the driver out of the truck. Fortunately, an ambulance also witnessed the accident and other first responders weren't far behind. This submitter was taking his wife to work when they spotted an unusual passenger on a semi-trailer. They tried to alert the truck driver, and they did convince him to pull over, but they weren't able to stick around to see what would happen. Luke was pulling up to an intersection when he watched the driver of a Dodge Challenger use the turn-only lane to run the red light. That Challenger only has a temporary license plate, so I'm guessing their traffic violation career is only getting started. Dion and his wife were on their way back from New York to Florida. He was taking his turn for a nap while his wife was driving, but he didn't realize she needed some sleep too. At 75 miles per hour, their VW Jetta left the highway and blasted through gravel and grass after Dion's wife fell asleep at the wheel. Dion woke up and grabbed the steering wheel, keeping them from hitting the overpass. The passenger's window was cracked, the hood was dented, and some debris had lodged under the car, but it was still drivable. Looks like someone needs to pay more attention while crossing the street. Codeman was on his way home from church when a pedestrian crossed the road in front of him without looking and with 2 kids in tow. Luckily, he was obeying the speed limit and was able to stop in time. Paul was doing 70 miles per hour on a highway when he nearly hit some unidentified road debris. Thankfully, he was able to swerve around whatever that was. Tell us in the comments what you think it was. Jerry watched the driver in front of him run a red light before getting T-boned by cross traffic. He thinks the driver wasn't paying attention and started moving when the car next to him took a right on red. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. Jerry wanted to shout out Jen and Diddy, who also watch Wham Bam videos. Dan was driving down US Highway 36 when a pickup truck passing a semi nearly ran him off the road. Dan says the guy didn't seem to even try to speed up or move over and acted as though Dan was somehow in the wrong. He continued on his way with an elevated heart rate. Shobit was headed to a massage when he stopped at a stop sign. He couldn't see around the corner very well, so he inched forward for a better view. The BMW driver behind him thought he had gone and rear-ended him while himself checking for cross traffic. Repairing the damage cost over $1,000 which the other driver, a college student, paid for out of pocket. Shobit also drives a BMW and wanted to point out that both BMW drivers were using their turn signals. This emitter watched a bad driver successfully evade some instant justice. Watch as the guy on the left runs a red light to turn right from a left-only lane. Seconds after he drove away, a sheriff's deputy pulled up to the intersection. Our submitter said this was sort of the opposite of instant justice. This submitter was driving in Oman when he encountered a camel traffic jam. The Sultan's palace was preparing for a visit from the President of the United Arab Emirates, and the camel riders were practicing on a street in the old city. Our submitter said this was a once-in-a-lifetime view.